In this video, we're exploring what I like to call a gateway drug automation for any business that deals with a lot of messages or emails incoming, which at this point is most businesses. The example I'm going to show is a quick and easy way to dip your toe in and start to see how powerful and useful AI and automation can be using some real world examples. What I'll show you is how AI can categorize your emails way more intelligently than a normal email client. Then using an automation flow with your company's own data from the likes of a CRM, I'll show you how it can be used to write personalized responses using that data and the message you received to create drafts that you or your employees simply need to go and edit and then send, rather than starting from scratch and wasting hours every day. Recently, I've spent a lot of time researching the real estate industry, so I'll be using examples from that, but you'll be able to quickly see how this entire process can be very, very easily adapted to the likes of recruitment, customer service, sales, or really any role that involves dealing with a lot of messages. I'm going to kick us off by first just showing you the flow that we're about to build. This software that I have here is called n8n. It just makes it really easy to make automation flows without requiring custom code. I am a software engineer. I really enjoy writing code and could build something like this fairly easily in TypeScript or Python, but some silly little things like connecting to Gmail or connecting to Google Sheets could easily add hours or days to the process, and n8n just makes that really nice and simple to connect up to different apps that you have. There are alternatives to n8n, make.com and Zapier being two of the biggest ones. I really like n8n because it makes it easy to add code if you need to. Although you don't need code for most things connecting to most apps, I really like the flexibility, so that's why we're using n here. If we actually look at what this flow is doing, this might seem a little bit intimidating if you're new to using anything like this, but hopefully when I step through each part, you'll see that this is actually really simple. The first thing that we're doing is we're just listening up for messages coming in through Gmail. Every time a new email comes in, it kicks off this flow. When that email comes in, we're using a bit of AI to figure out what type of email this is. Then based on that type of email, we're going to add a little label to it in Gmail. I'll actually show you that here. It's in Gmail. Add this little label to very easily see what type of messages came in. The labels that I've got here are vendor lead, somebody trying to sell a house with us. Property question, somebody's asking a question about a property that we already have listed. Somebody's trying to get a status update on a sale. Somebody's giving us more information to progress the sale. That could be, a customer, or it could be a lawyer. And the last one is just we can't figure it out. It doesn't fit neatly into any of these buckets. That's the first step. We're going to label it up, put those things in Gmail. If it is somebody trying to sell a property with us, this is a lead. You want to respond to those really, really quickly. So what we're going to do is take their message and their subject line. We want to make sure they've given us enough information for us to progress or to validate them in some way. What we're going to do is take that message and then use AI to try and craft a good response to them. Then using that response, we're just going to put that into our draft box in Gmail so that we can go in, see the draft, see a tweak, send it. If somebody's asking a question about a property that we have, this is where we can start to use our own data. What we could do is go and fetch the data. For this example here, and I'll show you all of this, I've sort of faked out a CRM. But what you would ideally want to do is they've asked a question about a property. Go and get the details about that property from your CRM. Then use the details about that property on their message to try and craft a response. Then using that response, we again put that into our outbox so that we can go in, see the message, tweak. Okay, so this is the flow. Let's actually look at this in action. I'm going to come into emails here. I've got this nice little one written up. Valuation for Camden property. Hi Sean, would it be possible to arrange a valuation from a property in Camden Road sometimes next week? Kind regards, also Sean. So I send this off. It's going to take a little minute for this to come through. We can come into here and look at our executions. We can see if this comes through. Okay, this is it being kicked off. Process has started. Right, we can see exactly what this flow has done. The emails came in, it's classified it, it has figured out that it's a vendor lead, it's used AI, and it's putting it in draft. Come back into here. We can see, okay, it's tagged it up correctly, this is a vendor lead, and we can see the response. Hi, thank you for reaching out to Uncomplex Estate Agency regarding the valuation of your property in Camden Road. We'd be delighted to assist you. Could you please provide the exact street name and number of your property? Also, how many bedrooms does it have? This information will help us better prepare for your valuation. Additionally, could you let me know your availability next week for an agent to come and view the property? Look forward to hearing from you soon. Now, this entire response is based on what I've asked it to do, but I thought I'd show you this first. If I like this, I could hit send. respond to them instantly. Or if I think, no, that doesn't quite fit, I could easily adapt that. Okay, that's the first branch. If we now look at an example from the second branch, somebody asking a question about the property. I'll come back in here, another one I've written up. Hi there, I was just wondering if the seller of 22 Camden Road is looking to sell soon and what the chain process is like. I don't live here, just to add that. This is just a famous road in London. If I hit send here, it starts going through the sending process. If we come back into n8n and look at our executions, here we are. That took about a minute to come through. We can see, yes, it went through the correct flow. This message came in, being classified. AI has figured out that it is a question about a property. It has then tried to search our database, our CRM, for that property. It has found that property, and then it's used AI to try and send it out here. I'll just show you what our CRM looks like. I've got two properties, 22 Camden Road and 66 Main Street. Just before going into Gmail, what this should have done is found this property and used the notes about the property to try and create a response. If we come back into Gmail, reload, okay, it is correctly figured out and attached the label property question. And I've asked, are they looking to sell soon and what the chain process is like? And in the data, we've got here that as a garden, there's no seller chain and the seller would like to move out in June. How is AI done? Thank you for reaching out regarding 22 Camden Road. Please inform me that the property has no seller chain, which could make the purchasing process more straightforward. The seller is indeed looking to sell and would like to move out in June. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, please feel free to reach out. Again, if I felt that this was good enough, I would just hit send, or if I needed to make some tweaks, I would say this is pretty good. Okay, we've seen this in action. Let's actually deep dive into each of these little nodes. The first one is just connecting up to Gmail. I will release all of this as a blueprint and a link below so that you can deep dive and adjust it for yourself. But I'll give you a little run through of them all to see what's important. The first one is connecting up to your email client. I'm using Gmail. Nice and simple. You come in, sign into Gmail. Any other email client like Outlook or Yahoo is going to be the exact same here. And then the first juicy part that we've got that actually does something interesting is classifying the email, figuring out what type of email this is. If you've ever used n8n before, they've got this text classifier that you connect up to an AI model, and it should do the same thing here, but I couldn't get it to work as well, so I just custom wrote it using the exact things that I would like it to do. In this AI node, I've connected up to OpenAI, and I'm just sending a message to OpenAI, similar to what you would do in ChatGPT. I'm using OpenAI instead of Anthropic or DeepSeek because I know how to prompt this, but others would work just as well. I'm using a nice cheap model, 4.0 mini. I think this will work just fine. I've told it that I want it to respond with JSON, which means I want it to output data in a specific format. And I've given it a low temperature because I don't want the AI to get creative here. I want it to do exactly as I've told it to do. If we have a little look at the prompt I've given it, the setup here, as I've told it, the role, like what sort of person do I want it to act like? What is the task? I've given it the specific details, which is all of the classifications. And I've also told it how do I want it to respond. So I want it to respond with data in this format. Classification, type of email, summary of the email, and then if they've mentioned a property, then what property are they referencing? This will be used for if they've asked a question about a property. We're coming here, role, I've just said your email classification system for an estate agent, nice and simple. The task is to take the text from an email and figure out what type of email it is based on the classifications that I'm about to provide you. And if they've mentioned one specific property, then pull that out into property referencing. Then the specifics for each of these classifications, vendor lead, property question, chasing completion. I've used underscore here just because it's easier later on in the process, and I'm used to doing that with code, but we could have done vendor space lead, no problem. I've explained to it what each of these are. So for a vendor lead, this is somebody that would like to sell a property with us. For a property question, this is somebody that's asking a question about a property that is currently being listed. This is not if they're trying to sell a property with us. So I've made that very clear. This does not include new properties that are not being sold or people that would like to sell with the firm, because I want that to be classified as a vendor lead. That's the prompt here. As you can see, it's not crazy long, but there's some little tips and tricks in here, like telling it exactly how I want it to respond. That's the system prompt. This is me just setting it up, telling it what it is. How do I actually give it the email? In here, we've then got a user role prompt. And this is where I'm referencing the previous stuff. The message received comes through with a snippet, which is the main body of the email. I've said this is the content of the email, and then it also gives us a subject. I've included the subject line as well. So AI will take this and then the details provided and will generate an output like this. What is the classification, summary, property referencing? Nice and simple. Next step in this process is a switch. It's given us the email classification. What do we do with it? It comes out underneath choices. The first one, the choice classification. I want to take that classification, and if it is equal to vendor underscore lead, I want that to be a vendor lead. If it's equal to property question, and then all the way through. And this switch statement just then allows us to start adding nodes based on the different things. So vendor lead, we go this way, property question, other, yada yada. The first step, once we've got that classification, is adding a label in Gmail. Again, you could do this in something like Outlook. What I've done is taken the details from the email. I need to know what email that I'm attaching the label to. So I've said we've got message, we're adding label. This is the ID of the message we would like to attach the label to. And then this is the label I would like to attach to it. If we look in Gmail, I've had to set these labels up beforehand. So I've come in, added in a label. And then in n8n, it just gives you a drop down to select what label you would like. Once it is labeled, now we want to create a response. So again, we're using AI to generate the response. This one's a bit different. I want this to generate text, not extract out data. So I've given it a slightly more expensive model. This is still cheap. This is under a penny, I think, to run this entire thing. And what I've done here is change the role. This AI, I want it to be an expert email writer. The task that I'm asking it to do is take the received email that I'm about to provide from a vendor lead and craft a short response, thanking them for reaching out and then making sure they've provided enough details. So I've said I want to know the exact location of the property, street and number, how many bedrooms, and then what their availability is this week. If they've said something like, oh, I want the viewing in 3 weeks' time, I want it to not ask what your availability is this week. So that's what these extra points are. I've told it how I would like to sign off the email. I give it a little bit more context. This is uncomplex estate agent. I've named it. I've told it I want to give it just the email. I don't want any of those. If you've used ChatGPT, it sometimes says, here is your response. I don't want it to do anything like that. I want it to just give me the email directly. And then I've also given it one example. This is how you get AI to write in your tone of voice. You just give it multiple examples of how you write. I've only given it one. It's really good to give between like 5, 10, 15 examples of what a good response would be. And AI can figure out how to write like you. That's how you stop it from writing like a robot. It's just providing some good examples. And this works a lot better than a lot of people would think. And the last stage in this vendor lead process is creating a draft. There's a few little things here. We've said that we want to create a draft. I've had to tell it what the subject is, which is just reply in their subject, which is fairly normal. I've told it the email content is from the last step. So this message received, see the entire schema. This is all of our previous steps. And the first one here is message received, so we're getting the subject from that. And then this is our last step, the content in the message. This is what I'm going to respond with. In Gmail, you need to start a thread. This is how you work in responses. Otherwise, it would just create a draft message on its own. And I've told it who I would like to send to. And then that's it. This is this process. Okay, so that's the vendor lead process. What about the property question process? If we come into here, the first thing I want to show is that this has no input data. n8n doesn't know what this is because the last time I ran this process, it ran through here. So what I've done is I've went in and sent another email, turned it off, run the test workflow again. And now this process runs through this one. And now if I go and step into any of these stages, it includes the data from all of the previous steps. It's came through, we've labeled it, nice. This sort of fake CRM I've used, what I've done is just connected it up to a Google Sheets and got all of the rows. We'll see this nice little fake CRM, 2 properties, that's all I've included here. Then I've used a little bit of code to search through these. Again, if you're using a real world example here, you'll want to connect up to a CRM that you have. I just don't have access to a proper real estate CRM. The important part here is that it has figured out what the property is. It has went and searched based on the property referencing from the initial part. If it is found a property, or even if it is not found a property, we then move on to the AI stage of this. Now again, we want to set this one up specific. So I've done a very similar thing: role, task, specific information, some context, some notes. I've not provided any examples here, but examples would definitely be good. The role, I've said you're an expert email writer, again, acting as if you're one of the admin staff. And the task here is to take the question somebody's asked and try and answer it using the details from the property. Some specifics I've given it is make it friendly, but professional, straight to the point. Do not imagine any additional data other than what we've provided. Told it how to sign off the email. Again, giving it context that we're uncomplex estate agency. And I provided, again, some notes on just the email response, nothing else. Again, so that we're not including any top or bottom of the message. We can just directly send this into an email. And then I've used the email coming from the first step, along with the property data that matched previously. You'll see property data that matched previously. I've got in this format here, which is the property that we found from our CRM. And even though this is in weird JSON format, the AI can figure this out really well. And we'll see, again, the exact same thing for the draft system. We've told it the email. And this is what it said. Thank you for reaching out about the property 22 Camden Road. Seller is looking to sell soon. That's made quite nice. And that is it. That's both of these flows. You could extend out these more. You could easily add more labels. If you're chasing completion, you could provide a nice response saying, oh, thank you, we'll get back to you soon. Anything that makes life easy for sending emails.